Hello and welcome to Education 602, Action Research 1. This is an overview of the syllabus. First off, I want to talk about the office hours. I have posted office hours, but obviously for most of you, this is not going to work because you're doing your student teaching and you're going to be teaching during the day. So I want to emphasize that I am available evenings and sometimes on the weekends. If you need to meet with me and it's not something that you feel like we can discuss over email or a phone call and you want to meet in person, that's absolutely okay. Just call or email and we'll set up an appointment either in the evening or on the weekends that you can come in. I am very available to you and I want to make sure that you know that even though you're teaching during the day and can't make the office hours, we can certainly meet. It's not a problem. Next of all, I want to talk about the required text. This is maybe an interesting choice for an action research class. Instead of having you take a traditional text that says this is how you do action research, step 1, step 2, I wanted a text that is going to be more relevant to what you're doing every day. So we're going to do some work in the text. Once we get to the assignments, we'll talk about that a little bit more. And the idea is that you're going to see why we have research in schools. Why do we even have this class? It's not just, oh, it sounds good, let's throw it on. We need to know about research as educators. It's very important. I think it's something that traditionally hasn't been in the schools as much as it should, and I think there's been some difficulties that have come about from that. So we'll talk about the assignments a little bit more and you'll get to know more about the book. There's a ton of information out there when it comes to actually how to do an action research, lots of free stuff on the web, and we're going to use some modules and things using other websites and other outside resources. So you do have support when it comes to actually writing your proposal and how to do a lit review. We're going to have some information for you, but I didn't feel like you needed a textbook for that. Okay, next, course description. Some of you, if you've been here for a little while, you might think that this course is all about doing an action research project, and it's actually just designed to teach you kind of the background to action research and go as far as writing a proposal. So you're not going to carry out a full project at this time. You will do learn how to do research. You're going to learn how to look up articles. You're going to learn how to decide if something is worth including, not worth it, some differences between qualitative and quantitative research, strengths and weaknesses of each. We're going to talk about stuff like that. You'll get to the point where you actually have a proposal. So you'll have a review of the literature and you'll have some, how would I actually do this if I were to carry it out? You're going to go that far in this course. Some of you, if you continue to work on your master's degree, you might then pick that up and take that as at the next step and do the actual action research and your capstone project. So we're just going to a certain point in this course. The outcomes, you can look at those on your own. It's all to do with research and knowing what's good and what we need to work on. Okay, assignments. There are going to be detailed assignment sheets for each one of these, and you'll be able to access those on Blackboard. The first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is the timeline assignment. And what I've done is I've given a proposed outline of when assignments should be due, but most of those are not written in stone. And my reasoning for that is you all have your own school calendars, you have personal calendars, you have different life events going on, and so I want to give you some flexibility. I don't want to have everything totally open-ended where, just turn it in by the end of the semester. I think there are some downfalls to doing it that way. So what I've done is I've proposed some due dates for the assignments. There are 1 or 2 due dates that can't be changed, such as the final project has to be due by a certain date, just so that I have time to review it and get your grades in. But other than that, with some parameters, you're going to be able to choose your due dates. So your first assignment is going to be the timeline assignment, where you're going to look at the assignments, look at the proposed due dates, and submit to me whether or not, yep, those look good, I'm just going to go with what you've proposed. Or you may want to say, I want to shift these around a little bit, and I want to change these due dates. And you can do that. That's going to be fine. So the first thing you'll do is you're going to turn in that timeline to me, and you have to have that done before I'm going to accept the rest of your work, because I want you to really look at that and say, okay, this is what my semester is going to look like. And think about if you have personal stuff going on that you know that you're going to be really busy with some family event. Think about that. If you know that you're going to be involved in a certain aspect of your school and you know that 1 week is really going to be busy, take that into account as you figure out when you want to do your work. So you're going to turn that into me. The second part of the timeline assignment really isn't anything that you have to do much with. At the end of the semester, I'm going to look to see, did you follow your timeline, yes or no? And you're going to answer that question, then I'm going to look to verify if you did it or not. If you did and you followed your timeline and you hit every due date, then you get 75 points. If you didn't, you get 0 points. There's no in between. You can do the math and see that even if you don't hit your timeline, if you do get full points, 100% on every other assignment you do, you can still get an A minus. But if you lose many points along the way and don't do your work in on time, your grade is going to suffer. And remember, you need to have a B minus or better in order to pass this course. So this is a little different. Those of you who've had me before, it's a little bit different from what I've done in the past. In the past, I've just said, no late assignments, you get a 0, boom, that's it. I'm going to experiment with you this semester, and we're going to do this a little bit different. Okay, I'm going to scroll down here and we can look at the other assignments. There's grading scale, university policies, all that stuff's pretty standard on everybody. The next thing is the IRB reflection. This is the Institutional Review Board. This is what you're going to, probably the first assignment that you're going to do. It's not super exciting, but it's necessary. And this goes into a little bit about research using human subjects and some of the ethical and legal considerations we need to look at. So just want to make sure that you're aware of the review board and aware of some of those concerns that we have to have. And this will matter more when you get to the planning stages of how you're going to do your project. Okay, then I went through the book, and in some cases I chose, okay, for the whole section I'm going to have you do an activity. Sometimes it was a chapter, depending on what the section and the chapters were about. Obviously, those that were more relevant to you as a teacher, I broke into the chapter sections, and I'm going to ask you to do something for a specific chapter. The school-wide section and the student section, I left it as a whole section, and you're going to pick and choose through there. So these you can do in any order that you would like to do. If you look at the due dates, you can see it's kind of scrambled up, and the reason for that is based on the assignment. In some cases, specifically chapters 9 and 10, you are going to be asked to actually do some assessment with your students, and so you might not want to do that right off the bat. It's going to depend on if you've taken over the classroom yet, how comfortable you are. So those you might want to push back a little bit, but you can do these in any order you want. You can really pick up any chapter of this book and read it, and you don't have to read the previous chapters first. So look at that. Decide, how you want to play that. Maybe talk to your collaborating teacher and see how that's going to work. I also recommend that you get all of these activities done no later than the end of October, if at all possible. And the reasoning for that is some of the work that you're going to do through these activities will then relate to your actual action research. And so it'll get your feet wet and help you understand some of the sticking points that usually happen when people do their action research, such as how to state a research problem, how to make a hypothesis, how to do assessment. And so I just want you to do some small activities. They're pretty quick little activities that you'll be doing. And I'd like you to do those before you really launch too far into your action research project. So look at your schedule there and see if that's feasible. It gives you about, depending on when your school starts, almost 2 months to get these done and really get comfortable with your classroom before you start working and looking at the review of lit. Annotated bibliography, always a favorite. Once you know what you want to research, you'll let me know the research question that you're going for, and then you're going to start doing research. And so the annotated bibliography basically is a summary of each article that you look up, each research study. You're going to do the bibliography and then give me some notes about that, and there's some specifics to how you do that. So you didn't do that just to say, okay, here's the research. After you do that, you'll move on to the review of the literature, and that's where this is probably the longest part of the assignment, and you're going to put all those ideas together, and you're going to write a general review of that, where you're going to be combining ideas and pulling stuff out and really telling me why this is an important thing to research and what people have already done with it. So that's probably the biggest assignment that you have. You'll definitely want to give yourself the most time for this. Once you do the annotated bibliography, the review of the lit is much easier because the research part is done and you're just synthesizing ideas. After that, the action research proposal itself, which is mostly the review of the literature with a couple extra pieces thrown in there. It's not going to take you that long. Like I said, the review of the lit's the hardest. Once you get that done, actually writing your proposal isn't going to take you too much longer for that. And then finally, the proposal presentation, and more information to come on that. I would like you to present your proposal ideas, but I do not want to have a day of PowerPoints. I think that's gets kind of tiring, especially if you're one of the people that you end up going towards the end. Everybody's heard so many PowerPoints, they just don't want to hear anymore. So we're going to talk about some other ways that we can do that. It'll probably be something like a poster presentation or something along those lines, but you'll get a little bit more information on that as far in dates when we come together and actually get to do that. So there's a couple different ways that we can do that presentation. Might be able to give you some options for what to choose, but I want it to be something that you all come away with some new ideas and get a chance to share what you've done without death by PowerPoint. So that is a summary of the syllabus. Like I said, each one of these assignments will have an overview sheet that comes with it. It'll give you an overview, the objectives, specifics on the assignments, and a rubric. So you'll have full information on every assignment. And I'll also do one of these screen-o-matic presentations for each of them. So if you look at the overview and you're not really sure what I'm talking about, you can always watch the YouTube video and get some more information. And if that still doesn't work, obviously call me, email me, and we can either I can answer your questions by phone or email, or we can set up a meeting and we can sit down and talk about it. So that is the syllabus.